Well, geez, we're gonna have spoilers in this one, guys.
Turn it off.
Turn it off if you don't want the spoilers for Endgame, because you're about to hear in over an hour's worth of it,
And also spoilers for Ugly Dolls.
and Mortal Kombat as well, just because.
Here we go.
Deep breath.
Welcome to our review of Ugly Dolls, the movie, starring Kelly Clarkson.
She's in that movie.
Dude, we listened to part of the soundtrack on the way here today. It's an all-star cast of musical geniuses.
Yeah.
And we might have to see it just because of that.
I haven't even seen a trailer for it.
Janelle Monáe and
Ugly Teeth? What is it?
Ugly Dolls. Yeah.
There's actual dolls that they made this from.
No,
Ugly
see,
Food?
I think they're separate than the Fugglers.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that too, but it's a whole other.
They have a movie too?
I don't know, but no.
Everyone gets a movie.
Kelly Clarkson's
You get a movie.
Kelly Clarkson's the lead, and it's a musical,
And she
Granted,
kills it.
The songs are whatever, they're musical songs, and it's super pop for kids, and you can tell from the songs exactly what the story's going to be. But it's Janelle Monáe and Kelly Clarkson singing for an hour and a half.
Kelly Clarkson!
I'm down. Anyway, back on topic.
Welcome back to Yellow Spandex, where all your dreams come true, Marvel or DC.
More
you
Marvel,
choose
though.
right now, or we don't continue.
Or anything else.
Not just playing. All right, so we're back because we want to talk about Endgame, people.
Took what has been maybe 18, 19 hours now, recovering.
Yeah.
Most of you
Oh, it's-
probably have seen it because we can't get a freaking
I hope so.
ticket.
So we have to start off this whole thing super spoilery.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen it, I don't know where you've been, but because it seems like everybody in America's seen it now. Did you see that it's on its way to be the first $1 billion
Yeah, within a weekend.
opening
weekend?
I was
Ever.
actually looking for the projections. I didn't see any.
Well, it's not even projections. They said that Thursday alone did what entire weekends normally do,
Yeah.
record breaking. Well, the day we're recording this is Friday, is the first official weekend big day or whatever.
Most cities have 24 hours. It
Yeah.
just kept going.
Yeah, I saw
Most
that,
major cities.
most AMCs are staying open for 72 hours. And we wanted to see it again. We're like, well, there should be some showing. There's showings from 8 a.m. until basically 24 hours, every 3.5 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
And we still can't get a seat besides front row or maybe handicap.
Totally booked up,
Yeah.
and I'm not sitting single.
Someone was asking me yesterday. I think a guy texted me even was like, "Hey, can you get me ticket?" Where have you been? You crazy? I had to fight the day of. I slept in, woke up. I wanted to go see to the Chinese Theater, and because that's my favorite place here in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Is the Chinese Theater. They have laser IMAX, and it's just I don't know. It's a great, beautiful theater.
If you would have
It
gone
is.
to El Capitan,
Yeah.
Feige and the Russo brothers showed up.
Oh, I did want to. I actually looked at El Capitan afterwards, but their website kept screwing up.
Because it's made from 1993.
Yeah.
Because you can only buy. Well, there's only one movie showing there at a time anyway, but it's that
Goofy
old
movie.
system. Yeah, but they our friend Aristotle Full Throttle was there, and I don't know if it was planned or a surprise or whatever, but he was going to see Endgame, and then all of a sudden Feige and the Russo brothers are introducing.
Oh,
Dang.
I would have cried.
I would have cried too.
I did cry.
All over
Yo,
him.
God, yeah.
I ran up there and cried on him.
I had so many emotions, but so we went with our friend Ruth Ann again. I totally want to see because
Is this the girl that was in Dragon Ball Evolution, as you were saying?
yeah.
Okay.
It was so we.
Or she wasn't in the Evolution.
Oh, not Evolution. She was in Light of Hope.
She would kill us for that.
She was Balma.
Sorry.
Yeah. She was
Person I
Balma
don't
in
know.
Light of Hope. Anyway, so she's a huge fan too. We drank a little bit before, but anyway, we were watching it. And now for Infinity War, when we were with Ruth Ann and some other friends, me and Ruth Ann were like Mexicans watching soccer, and I don't mean that in a racial way. Actually, probably a better term would be anybody but Americans watching soccer. It was it might as well have been a sporting event. This one was a little less of that until the last hour.
It sounded like an Eagles fans bar.
Yeah.
Because the first maybe hour and a half or so is pretty somber.
Yeah,
there's
it's
a
true.
lot of quiet moments, especially that opening.
Yeah.
You're just holding your breath because you know what's going to happen.
Yep.
Because they're just setting it up.
Clint.
Yeah.
Is that his name? I forgot already.
Barton,
but,
yeah.
But they still had the little jokes, who puts mayonnaise on a hot dog?
I think your brothers do.
Yeah. But
Poor guys.
But then when it gets to the battle scene, we were just cheering and everything. But did it feel like multiple movies to you? Not just time wise, but it felt like it was little horror, action, drama, soap opera. There was an indie movie vibe in there for a little bit.
Yeah, there's definitely different aspects of that. I need to see it again, to be honest.
Yeah.
I really need to see it again because there's so much stuff. I was literally shaking half the time because halfway through is when it starts to pick up.
Yeah.
And I'm glad the first half is kind of slow because the first half, the regular Avengers is kind of slow. They're just setting everything up.
It's what it needed to be.
And everything needs that. You need character development, and because if not, that, I was listening to the AVGN guy, Angry Video Game Nerd. What's his name? James. And he was saying that he likes all the Marvel movies except for the Avengers movies. He says that they feel like they don't kind of like, there's so many people in them that they don't really connect or something like that. And I was like, well, I guess I can kind of see that because there's just not enough time for personal development. But
I think that the Avengers movies did a good job, but they also had the help of the solo movies.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind that the whole first act is what they look like after Infinity War.
That's why I was thinking this one's different because in that video he hadn't seen Endgame yet. It's like this one's definitely way different from those other ones because even in Infinity War they kind of jump in real quick and kind of keep going.
So seeing Cap as the counselor and what Thor was like, Lubowski.
Well, backing up just a little bit. Like what I loved about this and Infinity War, but especially this, is it didn't waste any time trying to like ease on into things. Like they even, because normally like after credits stuff from previous movies are like in the next movie.
Yeah.
So after Captain Marvel, and we saw that like where's Nick Fury? Where's Fury thing? Like I guess everybody, I expected it to just be in the opening scenes of the movie.
Yeah, me too.
It wasn't even that. It was just cut straight to she's rescuing Tony.
Yeah. I don't know if we're supposed to assume that happened because it's still in the other movie, right? When it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray, it's gonna be there.
Yeah, well, that's what when we left. We was it if you or Ruth Ann asked like
wasn't me.
Was it Ruth
I think both of us answered her saying that.
Maybe she asked like how did Captain Marvel know to like rescue him? Is like well at the end of Captain Marvel, she's like where's Fury? So they probably had a little powwow. And like she's like gotcha.
She went and rescued Fury or Tony and Nebula.
But it was crazy. Vincent brought up like to see Tony like emaciated, because he's in space for how
his
long?
His body really looked that like emaciated.
Yeah,
it was great. And his nerves and like you could tell the like twitching and tension and all that.
And that whole thing with him and Nebula in the ship for like what it was only like 2 or 3 minutes, right?
But it's still like that's a lot of development right then and there, showing like her becoming a human.
Well, that's what I mean though. Like
and all his nicknames.
So that 2 or 3 minutes did what like Up did in the first 10 minutes because there was all these little things where like you see him like take the bag of snacks and they're splitting it and she's like no I'm like a robot she like passes it over to him and then he just like finishes it
and she sets him up and kind of closes his eyes or whatever and she's obviously gonna I guess doesn't need air so she's just gonna chill and he is gonna pass away and
so that was like because I couldn't figure out if like I knew he was doing his farewell message but like I was like so is he dying now like or was it going to be like sometime the next day or did he just give up and then that was going to be
I guess he ran out of food he's just going to starve to death.
But how
he's running out of air.
All that too. How
depressing for Nebula though because she's like physically immortal, right?
I'd assume
like genetically immortal or not genetically like organically immortal like
she's in one piece.
It's like lobsters. If somebody doesn't kill it it'll keep living, right?
I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, lobsters are
Is that true?
Lobsters are physically immortal until they're killed. Like,
so there could be some like 1,000,000-year-old lobsters.
Maybe. Well, there's like 100-year-old lobsters and stuff that are like the size of dogs, like under the ocean. But like, so
there's a lot of harvest.
Actually, so supposedly like it's like a delicacy or whatever, but it tastes awful because
they're so old.
So yeah, it's really old. But like anyway, off topic. But
sorry.
So I was
Lobsters.
like, so I was thinking like. So that's how depressing for Nebula. She's been like pretty much a bitch for like the majority of the MCU. Then when she finally comes to, she has like a good few months maybe of being like good, and then she just has to like spend eternity with a corpse. In a spaceship. Like that's what she set herself up for.
It's crazy how they were able to pick a few of like really important characters in this movie and highlight and focus like the backstory and the things connected to and intertwined with all these other characters. Nebula, for instance, they kind of dove into. I feel like they focused a lot on Nebula, actually.
Yeah.
And Scott.
That's true.
Scott was like almost like the guy who got them back together.
I knew that Antman was going to be like a linchpin for this movie because
time travel stuff.
Well, because they set it up in the other movies where like it seemed unimportant, but like nothing in the MCU is like by accident, especially like a solo film like that. Like if they gave Ant-Man a couple movies before they gave Black Widow a movie, it had to have been important.
Yeah.
Even if we didn't think it was, Like, so they explored all the stuff with like Hank Pym and everything, because the Pym particles were like the crux of everything, like how it worked.
Linchpin, of success or no success.
I can't remember who I talked to this about, because I was actually asking Vince if he remembered. I was talking to somebody. It wasn't really an argument. It was like more of like a debate about like how the time travel is going to work. And I was like, now I'm not a quantum physicist, but like I know that the MCU had set up like quantum physics as a time travel device. So I was like, that's going to be the thing, like, because they've always said like magic is just science you don't understand yet and stuff. And so if they do this quantum thing, because they've kept mentioning like quantum realm, quantum dimension, the next thing is going to be quantum physics, you know. And then that was going to introduce the I forget what the term is. It's kind of like nonlinear time travel, and that's why they introduced the idea of like the Mobius strip, because like they were all like, explained to him like, no, time travel doesn't work like Back to the Future, like because
that's a different type of time travel.
Yeah, well, it's not the real kind.
Yeah,
like it's like what like
the theory is a different theory.
It's like what a human mind can conceive, because if you think of time, like that's why you did the Mobius strip thing, like because if you really could time travel and it worked like that, you would be stuck in a continuous loop, because you would be destined to time travel back, you know, stuff. So
every
like
time,
it logistically has to work the way they presented it, where like it kind of branches instead of loops.
Yeah. Which kind of confused me. We'll get into it probably a little bit later. Just the aspect of time travel and like certain things that happened in this movie.
I can't, with time travel in movies, like I don't normally, like I can't condone that kind of stuff, but I can't condemn them either. Like as brothers, you know, they come up with some sick ideas.
all of that being said, though, about it being more realistic time travel, there's still a lot you just have to go with.
Yeah,
like in this, because there's like, you know, the ancient one like made a point. She's like, if you remove this, then we branch off. He's like, well, technically, like anything, like you breathing and having this conversation is branching this off, you know. But like, we're just gonna like we're gonna focus on this one part, or we're gonna have like another 4 hours of a movie just dealing with that. Like, you know. So I love that whole thing, how it set it up, how it just jumped right into it, and then just was like, you saw it, here we are, you know.
The whole like unfolding with Sorcerer Supreme, like that's when things started to really unfold, and why like Doctor Strange did what he did. Like the first thing was Hawk convincing her to give him the stone.
Well, yeah, there was like a two-pronged thing about Strange giving Thanos the time stone, was because like that was the only thing that was going to convince the Ancient One to hand it over. Yeah, and then Tony had to be the one to like. I loved how
Hawk or Banner dealt with like the astral plane. Like once he got pushed out, he's just like running around like, but you have to listen to me. Like it doesn't even bother him. It doesn't. Like he's just like, this is what it is right now.
Between him and Hulk, you know, like he's like, you know, probably had some weird out of body crap, you know.
And that brings us to another thing I love about the MCU, that everything I loved about the MCU like times like 3,000 in this movie, because like there was a point where someone said like, that's impossible, how could we do that? And then like Black Widow's like, well, I get emails from a raccoon, so
exactly.
Real quick before we move on, the last thing I wanted to say about that scene with the Sorcerer Supreme is that what she had said about Doctor Strange, like, oh, you're 5 years too early, and then he's like he is destined to be the best sorcerer of all.
He's supposed to be the end.
Yeah, so that was sick.
That was pretty cool.
Like her knowing that already.
Well, because they established that in Doctor Strange, she can see anything in time within her lifetime. She just can't see beyond her death.
That's right.
So that's why she didn't understand why Hulk was there.
Yeah,
but she understood that like if they were looking for Strange, he's off to. She already knew his outcome,
the reasons.
But it was interesting that we didn't know that she was in New York during the Battle of New York.
Yeah,
no.
So now it's like,
all right. So what was your question again?
I was gonna say, what do you guys rank this as? Is this number one?
See, to me, two things: Infinity War and Endgame are the same movie in my head.
Yeah.
I can't pit them against each other, because there's things I like better in other parts. Like Infinity War was more of like an action-packed, like, thrill ride kind of thing. And then Endgame was just like, I just want to see what happens. And then that last hour battle is like epic. Like, it's insanity. So to me, it's like a same movie with an intermission kind of thing. But at the same time, like, it's my favorite, but I feel like that's unfair, because it's kind of like the crown that the jewels lay on, you know? Because like Infinity War was the first Blu-ray I bought in maybe 6 or 7 years, maybe longer. I don't even have a Blu-ray player. I just like wanted to own the physical thing, and I think I'm going to do that with Endgame as well, just to have them in my like being wherever I go and stuff. So I think that answers like if that's my favorite movie, but like I still think it's like I don't know. It's weird. It's like I don't think we've had another franchise that's been like this where something's culminated to something, you know? Because even Star Wars, there's the movies, but they don't like build to the ultimate one.
That's true. They're all, with the exception, I guess, of the second movie, they're all kind of contained.
Yeah, maybe like at the time of the original trilogy, it was all leading up to the third movie. You know,
The first one definitely feels like not connected, like, necessarily on purpose.
but I don't know if there's ever been like a thing where like when did Thanos get introduced? Was it like
The Avengers, first one.
the first Avengers? So like 4 or 5 movies in.
Yeah,
Something like that.
Because it was
Those two
there's
Iron Mans,
two
a
Iron
Thor-
Mans,
a Thor.
Hulk, a Thor, and a Captain America. So it was the 6th movie.
So with the 6 movies in out of 22 or 20 at the time or whatever, like they introduced this thing, and then we wait for 7 years from that point on, or 6 or 7 years, you know, from that point on. So that to me, like it's like it was gonna be my favorite movie unless they screwed it up, and they definitely did not screw it up.
I couldn't see them screwing it up. I mean, like, there's definitely things about this movie that I would probably personally change. That I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. Well, okay, whatever.
Interesting.
But like,
We'll have to
I
elaborate on
love
that
it.
in a sec.
Yeah, seriously. But like, I wouldn't change any of it. Like, be like, oh, it's great. I love it. You know, the whole thing. I know. I only seen one person gripe, and I was like, what? How are you griping about this?
After Vince answers, I talked to my brother about this, and I have an amusing observation of my brother's one gripe with it that ties to something Vince had said earlier, like off camera earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, this is I've never seen anything like this in film, and it's probably because this is the first time it's been done.
The culmination of 22 movies, right?
Like even just forgetting all of those, the idea, all of the things that are connecting. Just as a concept, this movie is the first time it's ever happened.
What concept?
On this grand scale of the story lasting over 20 years, like all of this thing culminated to this last film.
Yeah. Well, you said aside from it.
Aside from like
it.
the history and everything, just that in film,
Yeah.
no one has ever done this.
It's like a large television show that lasted 20 years. You only got
This is the first
3
time
episodes a year.
anyone,
Yeah.
a human, has or experienced and witnessed this, like in movies.
Yeah.
To date, there's no one has ever
Yeah.
done this before.
Like I had prepared myself to, because of how history has gone, like Heroes ending, like all this stuff, like everything being like, you know what, I built it too much in my head. And so it's just not going to be that. It's not anybody's fault but mine for building it up. But no, they delivered exactly what I wanted to see. Like that ending battle was everything
Yes.
that you want to see. The only thing the only thing that would have made it better is if like your personal favorite got like a whole another hour by themselves.
That's
like,
true.
That's the only thing. But they brought everything. They brought the yellow spandex into that. Like we were watching it, we're like rockets jumping onto a Pegasus, and then there's like the sorcerers coming in, and then it was so funny because like this movie, there's always the joke of like people seeing MCU movies are like, oh, we don't care about the people who didn't see it yet. But this movie is the ultimatum. Like you can't get anything if you haven't seen at least half of them, because this doesn't. Infinity War people liked even though they didn't see the other movies. Like our friend Mark.
I still don't understand how you could watch it without like seeing at least a few of the recent ones.
Well,
you know?
our friend Mark saw Infinity War, but he hadn't seen a majority of the Marvel movies, the MCU movies. But he got like, okay, something happened, a bunch of people died. I get what his thing is. Is this a good standalone movie? But I don't think Endgame could. I think you'd at least have to see Infinity War before seeing Endgame, because nothing makes sense. It just like just there.
It'd be tough, yeah.
But do you have more?
Yeah, no, it's just that. Yeah, of course, I have more.
We all will have more.
All I said was that it's never been done, and then so it's definitely my number one movie. For one, is because it's just like we've seen things like not even from Marvel, just like in general. Like we've seen time travel movies, we've seen like rom-coms, we've seen all these different genres, and we've seen movies that are those genres stuffed into one. This one like literally just had everything in it.
Span the gamut.
And yeah, and there were soft and tender moments. There were like rigid, like very sharp moments. There were very fluid feeling scenes, and just the camera work and the CG and all the art and everything is just like
CG
made it
was
such a
beautiful, by the way.
gloriously like huge movie. And I think I even said to my sister, she's like, "Is it worth seeing?" I was like, I have to see it 2 more times just to appreciate it, because like I fully cannot appreciate it until I see it a few more times.
I fully expect this to like kill Titanic and be like done with it because I'm going to see it at least a couple more
Yeah,
times.
because
it's a visual spectacle.
It needs to beat Titanic and Avatar, right?
Yeah.
Is that the goal? Yeah. So come on, fans. Not that you're not already in the theaters because we can't get tickets.
I think it's my number one.
Yeah,
I
mine
think
as well.
I mean, like as a movie, like I feel like Winter Soldier's still probably top of the crop
As like a
but
standalone movie.
As a standalone
Yeah.
movie, and the Russos did that one too. I just feel like it's such a great movie, like just top to bottom.
I
Like,
think-
I don't know why that one for me just it touches me.
It's because of all the other films and seeing all the other films that it made it. That Endgame is my favorite movie. It wouldn't be that way. It wouldn't be my favorite movie if I hadn't seen all the rest of it.
That's
Yeah.
true too, because we were talking to at the party we were at before Endgame that was unrelated to Marvel. It was just something we were at. Our friend Ali Spagnola, who's also a YouTuber, she hasn't really seen any of the Marvel movies. She might have seen like maybe Iron Man and then like one or here or there. She doesn't really go out and watch movies, so she might have seen a couple of the big ones over the last 10 years with friends. But she was like, "Should I go see this?" I'm like, "No." Like, especially if you didn't see Infinity War. And then she was like, I think she's gonna try to watch all of them or all the key ones.
Oh wow.
And then go see it. But I was like, I don't even know if that would be the same. Because like catching up, even if you could like go to the El Capitan and do that 22 movie marathon that
Yeah.
just happened, I don't know if it'd be the same because we got to like live life with these characters, you know?
Yeah.
Like events in my own real life happened in correspondence to the first 3 Iron Man movies when Thor came out. I remember what it felt like seeing the Thor Dark World trailer. I remember liking Dark World when no one else did. Like
That was a crazy one.
like and then like Guardians of the Galaxy is kind of my Winter Soldier. I do agree. Winter Soldier is probably better than Guardians of the Galaxy. Like it's probably the better
I don't know.
movie. But Guardians for me is like the one that I'll flip on at any time and just can like watch at any point
Such
and
a
keep
fun
on.
movie, man.
I don't even know if you could catch up or you can catch up, but I don't know if you can get the effect that like we got watching the movies in relative time of them actually happening and then seeing this. You know,
I think you would have to do like one a week. Let
Yeah.
it sit. I mean, like when I'd mentioned before in other podcasts that like when I first went to college, like one of my roommates had like all the Bond movies. I think there was 20 at the time, and we did 1 a week, and like it was great because you could sit with it for a week and be like, oh yeah, next week, oh I remember this one from that one, and like, but if you tried to cram all those movies together, like especially the Avengers movies together, and never seen any of them before, I feel like it would just be like this blur of lights.
yeah.
I want to do Infinity Game End War.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
like 5 hours
Wow,
or
even
more
that.
of a movie.
that's like almost probably the length of
It's like 5.5, 6 hours.
the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Who was it? A to Z show I watch on YouTube. He brought a good point up. Like what the MCU has done that's so special is that like at a certain point it got to in the Avengers movies it got to a point where like you're sitting like with your friend, your kids, your friends, your families, or whatever, whoever you're with and stuff. And when Tony Stark walks on screen, it means something different to you than the person seeing it for the first time because the last time you saw Stark, like your kids were 4 years younger, like your wife was your girlfriend, like and so like it's also those life experiences where like these people, so it's like you're seeing them again, like and seeing where they go next.
Yeah, just the appreciation, like I was saying before. You can't really fully appreciate it unless you've seen all the stories. You've heard all the things. You've seen all the scenes.
Which is kind of cool with the credits like that because of the credits, they take a longer time to like pretty much say almost everybody that has been in the movies. So, and then the last 6 or so that were majors, they actually have them like sign their name on screen.
the 6
That was
OGs.
cool. That was really cool.
So at the Chinese Theater, speaking of, on I think it was premiere day, maybe all 6 of the OGs and like Feige maybe got their handprints in the cement, and they made a ceremony out of it.
Yeah, I didn't know that was happening, or I would have been like, I'm there.
Yeah.
I did see that because Robert Downey Jr. just put RDJ.
They probably do this for everybody, but they had a ceremony for the test run so that everybody could practice writing in cement, and then they did the real one like
maybe
later.
that's what it was.
Well, they did both, like right
'Cause
back
what I
to
saw,
back.
they were on table. It was on a table.
That was the practice run.
Yeah.
Obviously, you only get one
Try.
thing. Well, also as a star, like it's not like you've done this multiple times. Like, when you do it, like that was the first time, and that'll be the only time you'll ever do it. So
Probably, yeah.
so yeah, I guess I had them do like practice runs.
I do want to go back to, we were talking about how things started to unfold, and then there was things that you said earlier that you didn't like or that you would have changed.
So I was actually going to say something too.
yeah.
So I talked to my brother this morning because I guess I didn't. So my brother
yeah.
is not like a opening night kind of guy. So I texted him vaguely like, I don't know if my heart can take anymore because Endgame and Mortal Kombat ended within 2 days of each other. Side note, we'll probably talk about Mortal Kombat in another podcast, but I just finished the end of that trilogy and it's too much for me because both of them were very well done. and ended huge eras. Anyway,
Everything's ending.
yeah,
Game of Thrones is ending. The last Fox X-Men movie is
don't
kind of
care about
ending. I
that
mean, some people care.
Yeah.
I know who said it. Hug a nerd this week.
I said it.
You said it. Yeah.
Because it was like the MCU, Game of Thrones, Star Wars, and there's something else, Mortal Kombat, and then I think How to Meet Trainer Dragon or something.
Yeah, well, that ended in like February.
But like anyway, so I texted my brother something vague like I can't take it, blah blah blah, and then he was like, Endgame is my favorite movie ever. I was like, oh, apparently you saw it. So his only criticism. Okay, so I'm gonna rewind. On our way back home, Vince was saying like, I'll bet some people are gonna comment about Captain Marvel's haircut and say it's kind of dykey. And
That's that stigma, man.
and I was like,
That's
but
that
it's from
stigma.
the comic book.
yeah.
And I was like, I understand that like people can say anything, especially there will be an opinion out there about it, but I can't see that becoming like a big thing because it had precedent. It wasn't like out of nowhere, you know?
Yeah.
And even if it was out of nowhere, they addressed it. They're like, what are you going to do next time? Get a
Even
haircut?
Raccoon was like, get a haircut. Or no, get another
Hey, new
haircut.
character, yeah,
So-
haircut.
My brother was like, I loved it. The only thing was I didn't like Captain Marvel's butch cut. That was too far for me. And I was like, not only did it become an opinion, it was my own brother, which I'm sure, I don't know if he wants to like broadcast it to whoever's listening to this, but you know, that's
Sorry.
your brother's like a social media guy, and that's why that's why your daughter gets toys. So
Now you won't
this is out there.
tell him
but
things.
but I was
No,
just
I'm just
like
playing.
I was like, but it's from the comics, right? And he was like, yeah, but I mean, it just kind of makes it too far because it's I don't know. I
don't agree with him about the too far thing.
I might be speaking. I might be putting words in his mouth. So if wasn't his intention, I'm only speaking of it if it was someone else's intention of saying this. But I don't know if he was implying that someone might feel that there was like a political agenda underneath it because of like the female empowerment thing that happened with Captain Marvel and stuff. And I was like, I don't think it went that far. No. I just think it was like because we've like they. In Endgame, they fit in a lot of like little nods to the comics.
Yeah.
So like
Lots.
like the even things that weren't necessarily like the actual scenes. It was just like things you saw in the comics vignette. They put in like when Cap walked into the elevator.
Yep.
Yeah, so
and then
beautiful.
and the scene you feel it getting tenser and you're waiting for that thing and then he just leans over and is like Hail Hydra and I was like from the comic.
Exactly.
Because that's how Captain America started in the comics like 2-3 years ago or something and
Yeah,
threw
yeah,
everybody
that
off.
arc, that was,
And so,
So
but
crazy.
he just that panel is so iconic now with him as like Hail Hydra, and then they did it like in a different context,
Yeah.
in this film, but still kept his character. So I was like, I felt like that was one of those nods, like she was on screen for like the last quarter of the movie or whatever with that, or like once before, and then in the last quarter, like with the short haircut.
I don't feel like she was in the movie that much.
No, like anybody though, except for the six
Except for
OGs.
the mains, yeah.
I think that was kind of beautiful about it because we got to see everybody, but it seems like everyone had like a week of shooting and then that was it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it was much longer than that. But
Well, as far as the filming, because there's a lot of stuff that was just dialogue, and then the fight scenes were. I could almost see them doing it like they did that Maroon 5 video with the Girls Like You, where it's just like Adam Levine's there for like a week, but each of the girls came in separate days, and then they green screened all that shit together, and now you have like 36 girls in the same room with Adam Levine. Like I feel like that's how that end scene worked. It was just incredibly well choreographed. Whoever choreographed that, holy cow. But yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. I was like, so there's like a flying raccoon, like space warriors,
You're
like
worried about a
like people. Yeah, it was like you were worried that maybe Captain Marvel is perceived as a lesbian. Like
yeah, I could foresee how people would like people who aren't in the comic, read the comics or anything else. I could kind of foresee like them feeling that way because that was even my wife tonight was we were talking a little bit about Endgame and then she'd also mentioned like that movie. She's like, yeah, it was a little women empowerment kind of thing, almost a little too much. And
Captain
I was like,
Marvel?
really? I like look at my wife. I was like, really? She's like, yeah, but like, yeah, she said that about Captain Marvel, and I was like, oh, I could see how people would kind of feel that way who don't come, especially who don't come from the comics.
yeah, because that's another thing with the Captain Marvel. They also kind of gave her every iteration. They gave her the mohawk, the
Yes.
short haircut. So it's like
Which I love.
It
I
just
was like,
it
yes,
just.
throwbacks to everything.
But I feel like it was just kind of like they were trying to give her like each of the eras.
Yep.
Like.
with the exception of the black dress.
Yeah. Well, what the interesting thing about the Captain Marvel movie, though, I've heard other people say that, and it actually really surprises me that Andrew said that about that movie, because I might be wrong, but I mean, there might be something I missed. But I feel like if there wasn't like the outside the movie controversy, I don't feel like the actual movie had that much of like a female empowerment agenda.
This movie or Captain America?
Captain Marvel.
Or Captain Marvel.
It just felt like she
had
was,
a little. I feel like there was
I think-
obviously a little bit of it, but like
I think the same thing. I
it's
think
not
it was a
that
little
bad.
just
It's not
because
a big deal.
Well, she never had a male figure in the entire time. It's like she's so like powerful and like stern that she never had
But I
a
don't-
relationship like any sort of romance. But what she did have was that her best friend was a chick, and then you see all the photos of them
Yeah.
living their lives together. Like they spent Christmas. Like these are really close friends, you know.
Yeah,
but it was always like
is it
friends.
friends
with
or
the-
is it
yeah,
the
exactly.
exclamation.
so I didn't gather that either.
So like that's what they showed us.
yeah.
So like people are gonna be like, okay, she's kind of gay. You know, the ones that aren't like
Yeah.
progressive thinkers that can't say like, oh, they're just
see,
two friends that are friends.
See, I
They're
didn't
just
even-
friends.
I
Like,
didn't even see. I didn't read into that at all. Like that was interesting. Like I didn't see
like
that at all.
yeah, I feel like if they came
They
into
both-
it one
they're
way,
raising
they're
her
going to
daughter.
automatically kind of be thinking in a certain direction, and then sorry, I clicked the screen, and it's good, and they're going to be thinking in one direction. And I could see that kind of like building in their brain, even though like obviously I don't think that was, especially with a haircut, like it was just going with the comics, like,
going from the
over
movie,
5 years
her
later.
movie to that, and then like that was they made the trend. That's where they made the haircut change.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was like a timing thing for people who think that way.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna immediately associate that haircut with something.
yeah. I mean that's
For
what
me,
she
it
looks
didn't-
like
That
now.
didn't bother me like with the haircut because I don't see her as this like thing I want to date. I see her as this powerful thing that can freaking go through Thanos' ship with one failed
Yeah.
swoop.
Yeah.
But
You
and
know
that's
what I
another thing. They very like subtly just addressed the whole why wasn't she paged before, you know? Because like was it Don Cheadle? Was
Yeah, it's like, where you been?
She was like, there's a lot of planets dealing with the same thing.
And they don't have you.
Yeah, and it's like
Exactly.
there that is. But
Shut up, Don Cheadle.
And second small thing that I don't want to talk about too long, but I'm sure we're probably not. 'Cause none of us have too many things about this. The only controversy that I've seen online about this movie is one of my friends who introduced me, like not introduced me, but like introduced me online. Like I've seen like the rabbit hole of like other people. There's a small or a group of people that are really, really offended by Thor's depiction in it because they interpreted it as he had PTSD and like had gained weight and he became like a running fat joke throughout the movie. So I linked, actually, I don't know if he's going to do it. He said he was, but I linked the article to our friend Chris Butte at Rewired Soul because he does things like this. He talks about mental health in movies and stuff. And I was like, from your professional opinion, it would be really interesting to see what you have to say about this because I don't feel like that, but I don't want to write off someone who has like a genuine experience with it, you know, who do, because like
You definitely you would be able to tell like you know as the person who's like filming and directing and everything that they're purposely putting these things in. You know, they would purposely do that if they wanted to depict PTSD with Thor.
Well, he definitely had PTSD, and maybe I'm just interpreting this differently or wrong or whatever. But like to me, it wasn't a joke about his PTSD. It was a joke about his appearance in comparison to how ridiculous it was. Because in this, he seemed like a normal guy. Mm-hmm. He wasn't like he wasn't like fat bastard or something.
He was like Tony calls him like about Lebowski, and that's
Yeah.
when the first second I saw him, I was like, "What are they doing? Like channeling
Yeah.
some big Lebowski in here? What
Yeah.
is this?"
But he kind of had that what they call like dad bod or whatever, you know. Like he seemed like
It's more than dad bod. I don't
I mean,
know.
to me, he like kind of looked like what like probably like 90% or not 90%, like a good majority of like guys in the States.
Yeah,
Probably look like a
'Cause
good
we're all
average, you
heavier.
know. So to me, it was kind
Thor
of like
still outdrank us though.
to me it was kind of like like when someone is like so incredibly fit like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something, then they end up doing like a phase or a movie where they like make fun of his appearance. So like what was that, was it Junior that Schwarzenegger was like pregnant?
yeah.
So stuff like that. I'm not saying it's a good movie, but I'm just saying like I don't think that's like making fun of like anything but like he's usually ridiculously buff.
I feel like he was still buff when he was pregnant.
Yeah, but
in
they
that
were
movie.
the whole thing is they were making
That
fun of
was-
his appearance.
That's
Yeah.
you're saying
And
that's the reason.
And then
yeah.
then they had that movie where like him and like Danny DeVito were twins.
That
it
was way
twins?
before. Yeah.
Like, but
So it's not that they're making fun of PTSD; they're making fun of Thor.
to me, that's why I interpreted it as
Yeah.
like.
I don't feel like he had PTSD. Like I feel like
I
because
think he definitely did.
I mean, that's one thing I did agree with these guys is he had PTSD because he watched his mom die, his dad die, and like his entire nation die, and he fucked up something in a war, and then like
he went through a trauma.
so.
And he even cutting Thanos' head off is gonna
Yeah.
mess with
That
your
too,
head.
yeah. And so, like, I think that PTSD was there. Like, I think that argument is like, I can get on board with that side. The appearance thing, I was like, man, like, I feel bad if that's the case, but to me, that's not how I took it as. Like, I took it as like, oh well, he's usually so ridiculous. Like the first Thor movie, I remember my friend Corey, like, we'd all talked like, man, like. I'm like straight as a ruler, but if Natalie Portman was doing like a naked handstand next to Thor, I'd just be like, look at his chest. Like, it's ridiculous. Like how, like not even in like a sexual way. It's just like that. That it was like you haven't seen something like that chiseled. And then like Chris Evans. It was like, this is like ridiculous. And then they did it with a Peter Quill.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh my God. Like, so
even RDJ, like in the first movie, he was kind of built.
But I think like Thor,
like
there was something.
look.
There was something about like the godlike, like ripped look he had and everything. It was just, and it's kind of like, he always was kind of portrayed as like the dumb buff guy.
Yeah.
Like other guys were buff, but they were also like scientists or like inventors or something. And Thor was like, me smash beer, like. And so in this case, it's like, I just took it as like a small joke of like, well, he just really let himself go.
I think it went a little too far.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, it affected everything else. And it was like a running joke of him just being like dumb and fat and drunk the entire time. Like,
There was no
I just
middle
wasn't a
ground for
fan.
that.
Yeah.
They would have had to have like completely changed what that was. Like, instead of him being a drunk, they could have picked like drugs or some other route. You know what I mean?
But see, him being a drunk.
But there was no like middle point for any of those routes.
Him being a drunk made sense to me though, because he drank before.
yeah, I mean,
No,
like,
the
it's
drunk-
kind of like a.
They did
Viking.
it all the way it should be, because it all makes sense. Even like
But
the cutscenes with Doctor Strange, he like fills up a beer for Thor. Thor drinks it and he fills it up again. Like, you see him like pounding beers all the time.
But I like what it evolved into. Like the whole like Valhalla Thor, like Viking Thor thing.
Oh yeah,
was, like,
with both hammers and stuff, that was crazy.
That was awesome.
because like it was funny though, because
All of a sudden his hair's braided.
when that thing happened, like me and Ruth Ann looked at each other like, apparently lightning can braid your beard. That's amazing. Like,
What kind of jitsu is that?
Yeah.
so, and was that one of the problems you saw? In the
Yeah,
movie?
I didn't like Thor's portrayal.
Okay.
Like,
Oh, that's
I
interesting.
just didn't like it.
I didn't know that's what he was going to say, so that kind of tied in nicely.
Yeah, good transition there.
Yeah.
So
I thought they
what-
could have gotten the same effect without
Uh-huh.
making him, like
So-
overweight and PTSD-ish.
Okay, so he could have still had his same physique, but
Yeah.
have the alcohol problem and everything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it could
Or
have
like a
had been like a
further
depression
alcohol
problem. Yeah, like have something that like went wrong, not being
like,
able to forgive himself. Who
More
knows?
sad Thor, because like last movie he was sad Thor too. Like, he's like sitting by himself, like
Yeah.
Well, that's just afterwards.
Yeah, and like he lost his entire planet and all
Yeah.
that and whatnot. But I think that's kind of why they went overboard.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying, Vince, because like
Because if it was more sad Thor again, it's just been more of the same.
because
you know?
everything in the MCU is like to 11.
Yeah,
that's
like,
true.
there was a
Even at
freaking-
the end of the movie, his beard wasn't even shaved; it was still looking like.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "I'll put the glasses back on. I still got the
Yeah.
sweatshirt that's got stains on it and stuff." I'm like, "Really? You're still gonna be like this? Like
This is another
Lebowski
one of
kinda
those
character?"
movies where like the psychodrama is every character. You're getting psychodrama from every single character. We're like going through Thor and his mom and him trying to get over it. He's like, one of the rules in his house was you can't say Thanos. Like there was like very
Yeah.
emotional, distinct ties to like the PTSD and everything else. But it was like a psychodrama through Captain America. We went through his life. We would go through Tony's life, and then he finally gets a life, and then so does Cap.
Now on the flip side of that offense to the PTSD fat thing, our friend Ken back in Delaware, even before I saw these claims and articles about the PTSD controversy, had the opposite effect. He was like, he finally related with Thor.
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
Because our friend Ken, he's a bigger dude. And he was like, for the first time, I could have been a body double for Chris Hemsworth. And I was like, I know he was kind of half joking,
Isn't that
but
all of us?
I know he's kind of half joking, but like, as a guy who's, most people who've listened to this and seen me on like my personal socials and stuff know that representation in like the ethnic sense is like always a big deal to me. So, and I that's why I try to keep open minded with the PTSD like fat thing. If that really is a thing, I don't want to like ignore it because a lot of people ignore stuff when I bring it up. But like, if that actually is like a representation thing for him, for even if it's a little glimpse, it was like, it was pretty cool because even at the end, it wasn't like he got struck by lightning and he lost 40
That's what I
pounds.
was like. Are we gonna do this? Or is the
Yeah.
mom gonna fix him or something? Or what's
Yeah.
gonna happen?
I mean, I know it's my if the
Eat a salad.
if the
He's gonna eat a salad
if the
and look away.
PTSD that's what I was gonna say. If the PTSD like controversy, what isn't the case, like isn't real. I thought the line of like eat a salad was like really funny. I laughed at it.
His mom says that to him.
That's fat shaming, Rod.
Well, your mom's allowed to tell you that kind of shit.
It's
That's-
true. I was really hoping that they'd bring back Asgard and they'd bring back Vision and they'd that they'd
there
kind
was
of
a
like
few of
heal
those
things.
things.
You know.
Actually, I had missed that entire thing. Like by the end of the
Entire-
movie, I was confused. I was like, how did Doctor Strange get everybody back?
Oh yeah, me
The
and
whole
Ruth.
first snap I had forgotten about.
So this is a funny little scenario about our specific screening. So we're walking, me and Vince and Ruth Ann are walking out of the Burbank 16 Theater, and we're heading to the elevators to get to the parking garage. And Vince is like, "So explain what happened there to me." And then maybe Ruth or something starts saying like, "So what happened was like, let's get out of earshot."
Yeah.
Because we were in the middle of the screenings. There was like screenings before us, and there was like 4 or 5 after us.
Yeah.
So people were, as we were getting on the elevator, people were like entering the theater.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh yeah, that's probably a good idea. It's like, let's make sure we're in the car. And just as we said that, friends that our friend Ruth Ann had introduced to us walked by us. They didn't see us, but I was like, it would have been funny that if we actually had gone through with it, we would have spoiled it specifically to mutual friends.
Maybe like that Simpsons episode where Homer
we
walks
said,
out.
That's what we said after. They're like, I can't believe he's his father.
I can't believe it, Luke.
But yeah, so like what we had to remind Vince of was like the first snap brought everybody back, but now like it didn't
Yeah.
rewind time. It just so everybody kind of basically like blacked out for a second because it's what.
But it's 5 years in the future still.
yeah.
oh yeah.
So
Like they dusted, and then 5 years later, Hawk does the first snap.
Yes.
Everybody comes back. As soon as Doctor Strange came back, he realizes, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
He
Let's get
collects everybody.
together, yeah.
And then it took him all that time to the third act to get everybody to do the circle thing
So,
and everybody come back.
Peter
One-
Parker.
Yes. I was going to say.
actually like explains it. He was like, I dusted, and then when I woke up, then I must have just blacked out though because I woke up and then Doctor Strange was there and he told me what happened.
And then it's 5 years later.
yeah.
Okay, so it's 5 years later. In the end, you see Peter and Ned together in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were in high school 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and they're still in high school.
Ooh.
So someone mentioned that, and the only thing like I kind of like I'm gonna think that they're gonna like kind of address this in Far From Home, but I would guess because the whole world was well aware that half the population was gone.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that when everybody came back, they just made provisions like you're just gonna finish school now. Like it's not like they skipped it.
Yeah,
you know,
because
like
he got dusted too.
But he's going to be 5 years older?
Well, no, because he
no.
got
We'll
he
see.
got dusted too.
I
so
feel-
when they all came back, they all come back.
Yeah,
how
I'm,
they
so
left.
that's the
age?
only thing. I'm assuming Ned also got dusted.
Yeah.
Because otherwise that doesn't make sense. He
Right.
should have been gone by then.
And it
But-
makes sense because he was emotionally like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hug you, Peter. Oh,
So then
God,
everybody's
I
going to
got
have like
this."
half brothers and half sisters that are older than they were before.
Which they had addressed with Antman.
Yeah.
He showed back up
And
to
his
his
daughter-
house.
Yeah,
and
but
his
he
daughter's
didn't
older.
dust. He was just stuck in that thing for 5 years.
But it's a very similar kind of experience, you know, like they like ceased to exist and then existed, you know.
Yeah. Otherwise, Peter would have looked 5 years older,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, that was just kind of
which
like
would have been a difference to me.
it was just that they got pulled out of like time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and existence and space and everything, and then they got like put back
Snapped
in.
back.
Like,
Yeah.
so in my head, they're the same age. It was just kind of like to them they blinked, but to the rest of the world, it was 5
But
years.
It's good theory. I like that.
I just don't. I don't. I feel like that is kind of lacking. Like that's like one of the only consequences. That
You know
I feel
what?
like
My disgruntled
Isn't-
thing was
what?
was the freaking gauntlet. But Rod had a good theory as
Wait.
well. So go ahead if you were going to.
No,
finish
I was just
that.
gonna.
So, freaking what's his face from the
Eitri.
Yeah, had to make a freaking gauntlet out of that like god metal or whatever, and then
That's also a name of a band,
right? God
hopefully.
metal, and then
Uru.
that's the thing that can hold the stones, right?
Yeah.
But Tony and Buffalo Bill, I mean Hawk, can like just make it out of Tony's whatever
Yeah.
armor.
The, so,
So-
the
and-
stuff, the nanoparticles.
Yeah,
So-
and that's just it's like human shit.
Sure.
So sure, right? That was
Well,
the
so
thing. It's like
my-
I was like, hey, come on.
So
that
my-
kind of like I'm sorry, but it kind of like
Yeah.
downplays the whole deal
That's
of
true.
the last
It
thing.
absolutely does.
So my interpretation of that was, well, you
Right.
mentioned nano stuff because Tony's armor, for the most part, up until like usually like ends of third acts, survives all of the space shit. So there's something to it there where it's like close to worthy, you know. But throughout all the MCU movies, every time there's like an alien attack or something, that technology gets like adopted into like the Earth.
It's the
like
one, you were
stuff.
saying the one thing Marvel does the best is they analyze all this alien
Yeah,
tech.
so like Agents of Shield like has all their tech because the Chitauri
Yeah.
invasion and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna assume since they
and the Kree and stuff.
'cause they cut the Kree like resurrected Coulson and things like that.
Now
so
we have that technology.
so like they cut off Thanos' hand with a gauntlet on it. I would only imagine that scientists like Stark and Banner and stuff would be like, "What was this shit made out of?"
And
or
they had
something like-
5 years to do it.
Yeah, so I feel like that they
Stark didn't do anything though. He just sat in his.
so Banner or whatever.
Or,
like,
no, it's just Stark Industries.
yeah. Or but well,
They probably brought that hand back to the headquarters.
Well, that's another thing too. Yeah, we don't know if he did anything at the beginning. We only saw the after, because he might have worked for another year and then gave up or something. I don't know.
Right.
Like, but like the thing is, they were in possession of it. Like the Earth was in possession of like the original Gauntlet.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you want like a behind the scenes like deep dive into, to me, they figured it out in 5 years by having the other thing. You know, something. And even then,
I mean, he figured out freaking time travel. He can make a gauntlet.
But even then, it didn't. It still kind of looked like it wasn't up to par with the original Gauntlet. Like I know the original Gauntlet was like fucked up, but like he was able to use it again because they made a point to say like he used it again to like destroy the stones, and then it was still on his hand and stuff. But the new Gauntlet like looked like it wasn't going to last a whole much more usage or whatever. So it might have just been like an endurance kind of thing too.
Yeah.
But I think there's enough weight there on both sides. Like
I was gonna add with the earlier thing with Angie saying, she felt that Captain Marvel was a little bit kind of girl powery.
forward.
Exactly. And what brought about that conversation was like I had said like one part in the middle where the girls stand up and it's like I'm with her kind of deal.
Oh, when all the females.
When all the females stand up, I'm like, okay,
So
this is a little hilarious.
So Ruth,
they're all standing together randomly.
Ruth said the same thing about like, is that too much?
Angie said that too. She's like, I felt like that was a little
too much? But I wanted to see it, so whatever.
I love the Pepper Potts got the rescue armor.
Yeah,
It was
Crap, that was cool.
But B, once again, one of these things that they may not have even thought of, but in my head worked. To most of them, that same thing happened like an hour ago because they were just at the Battle of Wakanda, and like 3 or 4 of the women like all kind of like did their thing.
Oh, that's true.
So it might have just been like a continuation of like, well, we were already working together, you're like, So it was kind of nice because it was kind of hinting at like the female Avengers. Like, isn't there like a whole comic series about like the all female Avengers
I don't know.
thing? Like, I saw like some posts about like, does this mean this is what's happening in the future? And
So I guess there is a girls like A-Force. I guess as
Yeah.
Avengers with the ladies. I didn't, in the last few years I have not been reading.
And also,
for all of them to kind of land in that one place to do that thing, it doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Like,
Well,
but
That's
like,
why I feel like
But I don't-
when I was talking to Angie, it was a little,
But the
little heavy.
But the thing is, they didn't randomly land there. All the portals were very precise. Otherwise, people would have been clashing into each other and shit. Like
This was like maybe for us in the theater, like a couple of minutes after they had all came in.
But I mean, what I'm saying is that everything
You have this epic scene of all the women together.
It seems like, because like you said, when they got undusted to when that battle happened, there was a good chunk of time, and it seems like some Strange or someone had like orchestrated some plan so that everybody knew where they were going to be, because a lot of those armies had never worked together. Like I'm going to guess the sorcerers had never met any of the Wakandans and stuff.
Yeah.
So there had to been some debriefing, like don't shoot at those people, like don't maul those people and stuff.
Yeah.
So there, for all we know, there might have been some off camera like, listen, like bitches got to stick together. Like
we're just debriefing. Real quick.
like
bad guys, not bad guys.
Yeah, not bad guys. Us here, like the blue chick, as long as she has the gold stripe thing, she's good. Like
exactly.
like,
Gamora
That's-
currently good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it plays. Is that they were all that close to each other.
Yeah.
To
yeah,
do that,
and especially
to
because
pull it off.
Valkyrie to me kind of seemed like the leader of that front, and that makes sense to me because she was formerly of an all-female like army.
Yeah.
So it might have even just been like second nature, like listen, we're gonna get all these bitches
all the
together and
ladies.
like.
To see her
All
be
the
the new
single
queen
ladies.
of Asgard too, that's interesting.
I love Tessa Thompson, so I'm here for
Yeah.
it.
Like
I mean, like
Thor
they've
just,
already
like-
kind of gone so far with it. I'm like, at this point, I was like, I don't know. Like, I feel like they're all kind of gone. Like Cap's done, with exception he could come back to be honest, but obviously RDJ's gone. We got Thor's like kind of taken off to hang out with the Guardians, so he might be in the new Guardians movie
3 as the Asgardians of the galaxy.
Exactly.
Like it's funny because my brother also said that he's like, I guess Thor's with Asgard or with the Guardians now. I was like, because that's a comic
It's comic,
series,
yeah.
Asgardians of the Galaxy. So
We should just go down like all the characters. We
Yeah,
talked
to
about
be
Thor.
honest,
We
yeah.
talked about Doctor Strange. Hawk had a very like large role to play in this movie, and the first time we see him, we see both the intelligent Hawk and the monster Hawks together, and that was like kind of a weird, shocking thing for me.
Oh, well, Hulk actually, and I don't feel like they do this
Seeing him
very
in a
much.
cardigan was not sitting well. Okay.
Yeah. I don't feel like they push on any of the Hulk movies. I feel like they tap into this Hulk. The reason Hulk separated is because he has multiple personalities, and so he has actually different kinds of Hulks inside of him. The very first Hulk was the Gray Hulk, and the Green Hulk's the Savage Hulk.
Red Hulk.
Red Hulk's a different person.
Oh, shit.
Red Hulk is actually Ross.
There's a
General
different guy.
Ross.
Oh, that's right.
And
I forgot about that.
but yeah, he even has. We have World Breaker Hulk, which is actually like I was hoping. Like this Hulk that we see is Professor. He's got all the kind of intelligence banner, but he's still kind of Hulk. And I was happy to see that. I was actually really hoping, like, yeah, I hope we get to see Professor Hulk. But at the end, I was like hoping he'd just like kind of freak out and Hulk out because that's what kind of happened.
I did like that when they returned to the battle in New York, and he's like, "We gotta break some
blend
stuff,"
in.
and he was like, "Okay,
a bit gratuitous, but
and
whatever.
he like punches a card. He's like,
And then he looks like a
I'm
werewolf
angry.
or like a dragon. He was like, raw.
Yeah. Because he just
Like a
can't
zombie.
channel it. Like it's the same thing. People like when people walk up to me and like, do a thing in music or like be funny. I'm like, I don't know. Like,
But then to also see like the most raw state of Hawk,
yeah.
the original from 2014, like run ravage through.
Which I was hoping he'd just go back to, or like when he changes in other parts, like sometimes he'll change to 1 if he changes that, and then if he gets a Savage at some point in time and he goes back.
That's
I
actually a
just
good point of like kind of tying in what we said earlier about how this movie doesn't stand on its own. Like you'd have to see another other ones because I feel like someone who like Granny Pottymouth has never seen the Marvel movies. She doesn't like superhero movies,
Yeah.
but even if she did and she hadn't seen any of the Marvel movies, I feel like the Hulk's depiction, there would have been criticisms. They were like, oh, the CG, the acting, what's this happening and stuff. I'm like,
I like what Ruth said.
it's like,
too.
he's like, listen, I'm just going with it. I'm not worried about the quality of the CG. There's a Hulk that's eating like burritos and like has glasses on. Like I'm down, and he's taking selfies with teenagers and stuff. This is all I wanted.
He's like,
yeah,
yeah, his arms.
It's like,
Dab.
it's like this is all I wanted. This is the yellow spandex again. Like I just wanted that, and I want to see like a raccoon riding a Pegasus. Like I want all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like
The CG was beautiful though. I don't feel like Hulk might have been like the lowest part. Like the rest of it was amazing.
What did Ruth say? She said like
she was kinda like-
she's like I don't know how to feel because I'm like very attracted to Mark Ruffalo. You know, all the women love Mark.
already. But
Already.
then she was kind of like there for Hulk Ruffalo.
Like she's like I'm kind of liking this Hulk Ruffalo. Maybe he should change his name to Hulk Ruffalo.
Maybe.
Well, I was like, but yeah, he was a handsome dude. The way they made him up, like he looked very much like Mark.
Yeah.
And like is this when you think of like chiseled all American dude except green, like
That's
that's
him.
what kind of did. They kind of did, and then like exploded him.
I did like where. What did he say right before he ripped the shirt off in 2004 when they come back?
I was like, well, it's a little gratuitous, but whatever.
Yeah, and then rips his shirt. And I thought like all the.
Well, that was 2014, or is this 2004?
2013.
Okay.
Or 14.
Oh, it was
12,
2014.
I don't know.
Or is it 12?
I forget.
it was 12.
I think 2004. I was still in college. I didn't know.
Yeah.
No, nothing was 2004.
2008. 's the first
I was still in high school. Or no, I just had graduated. The really like Hawk's whole like his character development and all that was very interesting too. Like seeing him get put in through trials and like what was it, Nat who had to like put the spirit back in Hawk to like try to figure this whole time thing out when Tony was like, I'm out, I got a family, I started over, like this is what I want.
Yeah, I don't feel like they completely 100% addressed like his kind of problem in the last movie. He's like, me and Hulk, we need to figure this out, and he's like, he just shows up like,
He
hey,
did-
we figured it out.
He did say something.
Figure what out?
Hawk
When he couldn't change to
Banner.
Hulk in the last
He's like,
movie.
I was always battling. That's when he was trying to get Thor back on track.
Yeah.
He's like, guess who saved me? You did, buddy. And he's like,
yeah.
before I was battling, thinking Hawk was like this monster, but then I realized he's a part of me. Like I need to.
Yeah.
That's
Which
why
is-
he became.
yeah, but that's
With
never worked
Professor
in the comics.
which is funny because maybe it worked for me because I just got done watching the OA, and that's a huge plot point of like merging that, and they did spend the entire season working on that. So like the whole thing about like not trying to fight. Well, actually, you know what? Come to think of it, Thor and Hulk had a very similar arc. Is just that Thor's was on camera and Hulk's was off because Thor was like, I'm not going to try to be who I was supposed to be. I'm going to be who I am.
Yeah.
So actually, it actually kind of ties back to like the gaining weight and everything and stuff. He didn't like suddenly like just fix himself. He's like, well, this is who I am. I might start working out a little bit later, but like right now, like let's just fuck some shit up, like.
I know, right?
Just with the Hulk thing, like if he could have just tried that in the beginning, like he definitely did. Or he's like, I don't want to change into, like I don't want to go back and forth. Maybe we could just merge these guys. Like that's the whole thing of Hulk, the entire time of Hulk, and you just fight it forever.
I loved the scene where Ant-Man, they're testing that theory, the whole time travel thing out, and Hulk's like, everything's gonna work fine. It's totally fine. Like, and then you see Scott get like zapped from a child to a baby to an old man.
Tony's like, he turned into a baby, didn't he?
One of my biggest laughs the entire movie was when they got it right like the 4th or 5th time, and then he smiles at the camera. He's like, time travel.
Yeah,
like
catchphrase at the moment.
But it was just his facial. Whoever did the mocap on his face, he was like, time travel. I was like,
they really
that was the
it.
best part to me. Like,
I love when he gives.
I love they had to turn the power off
because his taco got blown up, and he's like, "Oh!" And he comes by like all hippie, and he gives him a taco.
When you see Hawk's hands hand him 2 tacos,
You know what's funny about the taco scene too is like that's what people are using to like troll people who don't want to get spoiled stuff. And they're like, no spoilers. He's like,
taco.
He loses the tacos.
He loses the taco.
That's good, dude. Okay, speaking of spoilers, I want to get into spoilers real quick. I got spoiled before this movie, and it pissed me off because I got spoiled before The Force Awakens too. And it's like those are 2 big movies that like I knew something was coming, and that movie I wasn't off the internet yet, but this movie I stayed off the internet for a week, over a week. And I was still posting to like Instagram and stuff, but I was using like a separate app so I didn't see anything on Instagram. And so what had happened is like I forgot to turn off notifications on my phone, and like notifications popped up, and some guy said something to me, and the guy's name was Tony dies and Black Widow dies too, and I was like, you a-hole.
See, I'd kind of just.
I assume someone's gonna die.
Well, I just assumed Tony was dying, like because he was like the Godfather.
I was assuming Cap's gonna die.
Black Widow was a surprise.
Yeah, Black Widow was definitely a surprise.
Ooh, speaking of Captain America, so this is a little thing with our little buddy Scott from Scott Nicewander, which is actually funny because it's so minuscule he doesn't even remember it happened. But he did like a little Instagram live stream, like Q&A thing, and someone had like everybody was speculating like how's Endgame gonna. And this was like months ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't even make a call. I wasn't like, this is what's going to happen. I was like, what would be really beautiful to me is if like we already know it's about time travel. So if the whole thing happens and then Cap just like, we're good. And then he goes back in time and retires and gets his life with Agent Carter and then has his dance. And Scott also has a way better understanding of comic book characters than I do. He was like, that's just not in Cap's character. He never finishes. So he never like retires or anything like that.
Yep.
So they would have if they did that, it would be like a huge detour from his character. It's like they're probably not going to do that. And then like I see the movie, I'm like they did it, and then it ends the movie like that. Like the last thing you see is his dance with, and I was like anything that I had withheld at that point, it just all came out because it was so beautiful.
It was beautiful. I enjoyed the ending.
Yeah,
I agree with Scott because whenever he's talking to Tony in Civil War, he's like, if I see something going south, I can't deny myself. Like it's just in my blood. So like he's gonna be there with Peggy, and he's gonna just sit at home all day long. No, he can't go outside because people are like, wait a minute, that's Captain America. Like.
See, to me, and I talked to Ruth about this too, was they had just like saved everyone. Like they got, because in their universe, the only actual threat was Thanos. There's a lot of wrong in the world, don't get me wrong, but in their eyes, like Thanos was the only one that was going to really make that impact.
Yeah, and
he's gone. And in that time, they apparently didn't have any other like major things. There's like all the other crimes and stuff in the world, but there's like people for that.
Yeah. If they ever bring in King the Conqueror, he's like directly tied kind of to Captain America kind of deal. So I feel like that'd be really hard. Like, and I would not be happy about it.
I guess that is like out of character for Cap to kind of take it for himself, because it's never been for himself. It's always been for the job or for everyone else.
But it seemed like the reason I had. It's not called that I wanted that was because I felt like that's what Feige had been like setting up the entire time because he had the vision of the dance with her, and they talked about the dance, and I was like, there's no way they're not going to tie that up with the dance, and it's either they're going to kill him and then he's going to be a vision and he gets the dance, or he's going to retire. So when he didn't die, I was like, he's not going to come back from the time machine because they just made a point
to say
as soon as
he was going in the time machine, I'm like, he's not coming back.
But also, I'd wondered because Vince said something about like, well, is he going to tell Bucky so he doesn't freak out when like Falcon becomes Captain America? I was like, I have to rewatch it because I might have didn't see this right.
He had already done it.
But I think like the way it looked when he walked into the time machine, he gave Bucky a look.
Yeah. Like they had already talked.
That well, kind of they'd already, but will talk. Like Bucky and Cap from like the 50s.
Yeah.
Had a little talk. Like, listen, so like here's how this timeline's gonna go. Like had the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that by the time Buck got to that point, he was like, "Yep, this is it. This is what he said. This is what he said was gonna happen." You know. And then I also loved Pepper Potts, like when Tony was dying, because it looked like, I mean, obviously he was like outwardly physically injured, but it looked like his brain was fried, like he wasn't all there, like he was a vegetable almost,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
like, and
He was toe up.
and so she like looks at him and she's so composed that she's like, we're gonna be okay. You can rest now. Like I was like, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Like,
And she had to kind of move like
yeah, I'm
had to
tearing.
move Peter out of the way a little bit to get to him.
I'm tearing up like thinking about it because it was like because you could tell like he's hanging on because of his family and stuff, and when he just needed the assurance like they were going to be good, and for the one person he trusted in his life to tell him like you can rest because for the last however many years of his life it's just been constant like everything coming at him, you know.
The hologram got me when he was like talking to his daughter.
Yeah.
Oh jeez. The
I don't know if my wife saw me crying or not.
Like I said before, like, we're trying to hit all these like very
It's so huge. I feel like we need like
characters-wise.
3 podcasts
because there's a
to
bunch of
talk
characters
about
that
it.
didn't get this treatment. You know, like
Yeah.
a lot of them didn't even get that time, that screen time, or that like psychodrama screen time. But for Cap, like seeing the team go back in time to collect the stones, and then seeing how like I liked that Tony failed. You know, a lot of them fail on screen a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's something the Russo brothers do really well. Is like that's where the grounding is, you know. But my point of all this is that Cap at the end goes back alone to put the time stones back at the moment they were taken, right?
Yeah.
But we don't see that. We don't see any of that.
Nope.
But he did it by himself. Seems a little unbelievable to me.
I agree with that. That and like, you know, the Power Stone was like in a cube or whatever, or the Space Stone was in the Tesseract. So like, what are they gonna get it back in there? Does he have the box to put it in?
None of just not even just like time, but yeah, all these tiny little like
just have
variables.
weird aspects of
There's
it.
a lot
He's
of
got to go.
variables.
He's got to go to Asgard to shoot it back into.
What's his face? Like, there's so
Jane,
much shit
I mean-
that he has to do by himself. Of course, he has the span of his life to do it, but still, like, how?
Yeah.
But he had the PIM particles, enough to like travel as many times as he needed to. Even if he did fail, he could go back.
That was the thing is like now he has a supply instead of them all having one shot.
But like butterfly effect, all those other things.
But there is no butterfly effect because it's the quantum physics version of time
Theory,
travel.
But
right?
wouldn't the Cap thing be a butterfly effect? Because he went back in time in it, and he's there. Because so we got 2 different situations. We got Nebula shooting Nebula, and Nebula. So like, okay, so didn't she disappear at that point in time? And then we have Cap going back in time, and then he comes. He's like, oh, I'm here. I'm from the back in time, Cap. Doesn't make sense to me.
It's kind of hard to explain. So it goes back to his Mobius strip model. The Nebula thing was like closing a loop kind of thing. And then the thing with Cap going back is apparently, once again, this is going to take a further explanation if they want to get into it. Things didn't change enough for it to branch off into like another timeline. Or it might have, and we don't know. We're just on a different timeline. Like, because the ancient one kind of established that multiverses now exist in this world, like, or whatever, and which we were implied to before, but this is the first time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe we've heard it verbatim said like it can branch off, and it's like, well, so that's what we have now. So we might even be in a different thing, but like also the thing is that old Cap might have not even been from that timeline. He might have just traveled back to that point from whatever timeline he was from. He might have not lived in that world. You know what I'm saying? Like that it was in that ending. He might have like gone and lived his life, lived in another branch of a timeline that never had the Avengers or anything like that, and then just knew that he needed to like patch things up with the guys there. So he like traveled back to that point to like pass the torch to Falcon and everything like that. And because he could just have been like a parallel branch into the whole thing.
So that was like the only last thing I had before we moved back to Tony was this whole thing about him and the stones and like going by himself, and the millionaire thing made sense. He had to return the hammer back to its original time and all that.
I wasn't a big fan of the obliterating the mansion and nobody dies. Like they just like from space like blah, and like everyone's okay.
I thought Cap died.
Yeah, that's
because he walks up to the window and he crosses his arms, and all of a sudden you see all the nuclear.
That was
That was
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man.
That was
yeah.
Ant-Man.
I thought Ant-Man would have died in that situation
he's not even.
too.
He doesn't
yeah.
even have any powers. He just has the suit.
Yeah.
But I think they showed that he just like had shrunk, so
got
that
shrunk
he,
at that
so he
point,
didn't.
But oh my god, like there were so many moments like that. Like knowing ahead of time that this is going to be whatever Doctor Strange thought or saw or whatever. But then as it's unfolding, I'm like, damn, this is the timeline. Like, oh crap, like they know, like Thanos knows. Oh my god, this whole thing is screwed up now. Like they're gonna lose again. Like it's so much like angst and anxiety, and my stomach is like up in knots, like worrying about this team, like.
But that's what I loved about it, because everybody was
great.
making speculation on Endgame, and I was like, I know it's fun to theorize, and I like theorizing, so I was doing that too. But I was like, all of us are going to be wrong, because the Russos have already said it's not what anybody thinks, and so it was like they pretty much did what most of us thought was going to be the entire movie in the first 10 minutes. When
we talked about it before, I said that was going to happen. I said they'd go to find Thanos, and he's like, anymore, and then they'd leave.
Yeah.
And then they'd have to worried about go back in time, but
when they cut off his head, everybody in our theater was like, "Oh shit, he just did it." There was like no monologue or anything; like it just happened.
Oh man, and seeing like Thanos like that, like his arms all like decrepit, his legs all messed up. You see him like on the ground, his face is all burnt. You're seeing this like super defeated guy.
Exactly, he's like worthless at that point.
And all of a sudden, his head too, like damn, he got the treatment.
Yeah, it's a little violent. That's kind of funny. I brought my girls.
But they didn't, like, at least with this one, as opposed to Hellboy, they didn't show stuff. Like, Hellboy, if you haven't seen it yet, make sure you're good with, like, 2019 Mortal Kombat level graphic violence. But, like, at least with, this, it was, like, everything was, like, it was hard hitting, but more implied. And it also was, like, space, so we don't even know if, like, Thanos had, like organs like we know them, and stuff like that. So it was just like, poof, oh, it's done.
I guess lastly we have Tony. Like when do we even see Tony in this film? Like was it
right at the beginning?
Okay,
he's in the ship.
That's right. Okay, so he's with Nebula and they're stuck, and he's saying his last
not
words.
The first thing. He's the first thing after the opening title card.
Clint too, like seeing his family disappear was like the first thing you saw.
Yeah, the first thing you saw.
Tony, you didn't see the tech. This wasn't like a tech movie for Iron Man. Like every movie so far has been like new tech. I guess so.
He
But
saw
it wasn't a suit.
Yeah.
It wasn't any new tech to the suit. Like every single movie, he's been upgrading himself. And you know why though? Why it didn't evolve is because there was no bad anymore. It's like Thanos had.
What kind of?
They killed Thanos.
He did. He had his words, and he was like, "I'm the one that wanted to create the shield around the world, and you didn't agree with it and stuff."
Seeing Cap and him in that battle too, and then making up and all that. Like God, talk about like the dramatic like heartstrings, like just pulling on every heartstring.
I didn't like for some reason. Like I was with Antman in that scene where Tony and Steve decided to like go back to New Jersey. I was like, wait, what? What is this? Is this where it ends for them? Like they were just to sacrifice themselves and stuff. And then they get back there and we see Hank Pym, like young Hank Pym, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, they're gonna grab the stuff to do more of this. But which also brings us to we mentioned with Ruth. I'm not sure if like the de-aged like Hank Pym was like good or not, because if I didn't know it was him, I might have not even thought about it. But because I know what he looks like, it might have seemed a little uncanny to me. But it was still really cool either way. I was like, oh, yeah,
Who's the hip
back there? Yeah,
Look better than Carrie Fisher.
Oh gosh, that's true.
I'm just playing.
Everybody looked better.
Both of them were kind of weird to me actually. And it was even more weirder because we saw like a 3D thing.
Oh, yeah.
And the layers and stuff were all like
That's why I
jiggly
don't
and like weird.
3D when you got stuff like this.
And the next time we see it, we're gonna do Dolby Cinema. And it's gonna
Well, also
be
something
epic.
else I noticed about the real D glasses we were wearing. If they're shifted like and not
it's
lined up, if
not
they're
right.
if they're spun a little bit, the whole thing will be like layered. So you have to. I had to like keep refocusing my glasses.
I feel like if you're not like within the middle, like 6 or 7 seats too, I feel like when just to get closer to the edges, it starts to like smear.
Yeah,
too.
we were perfectly in the middle. It was just like if the glasses start like one side goes up or down, like then it just like unfocuses.
Yeah. So Tony, like, had his ups and downs. I mean, we've literally seen him from like close to death, and then I was talking about him being emaciated after he comes back and he loses a fusee, like literally, like just like shouts.
He
and
rips
leaves.
his heart out.
Oh yeah, that's right. He rips his heart off, throws it down, then he passes out.
Yeah.
At that point, he goes to have his own life with Pepper, right?
Well, everybody goes 5 years later.
That's okay. So that's what happened. He has a daughter and all that. And that was another cool thing Marvel does is they don't have to like tell you and show you every single thing. They just like, this is what it is now. He has a daughter.
So I feel like that's a double standard though, because then people are like, well, how did they return all the stones then? And
they
stuff.
didn't
like,
show. That's the point.
Yeah,
that's my point.
So I think they do it well. I don't think that that's a plot hole. I don't think that's like a bothersome thing.
I didn't. It's not a plot. I didn't say a plot hole or anything.
Or like I don't think it's a bothersome.
I just said Marvel. This is what Marvel does. All of a sudden he has a daughter now. That's what you have to accept. Just like Cap jumped in that hole and now everything's back to normal. That's what they give us.
Well, so I hate to be devil's advocate, but like one of the things I did like that everything wasn't back to normal. Like it was close, but like Vision stayed dead. Gamora, we know, stayed dead. Like,
but Vision's, they're gonna have that TV show. They got WandaVision.
Yeah,
So what's gonna happen with that?
I feel like they're gonna. Once again, now we know there's like multiverses, there's prequels. Like I know that there's supposed to be a Black Widow movie coming out.
But I've heard that was who's the girl that's in Harry Potter, the Hermione girl.
Oh, okay.
Belle. What's her name?
I mentioned to Vince like she has so much backstory that we never explored. Like they hint at, like they talk about a little bit about like her getting sterilized and like in the assassin camp thing, but there's a whole thing there where we don't see her become an assassin. You know,
I don't think she's going to be majorly in that movie, like in the Black Widow movie.
Speaking of Black Widow,
Black Widow isn't.
No, I think it's going to be. I mean, the Black Widow movie is going to be a prequel probably, and they had even hinted about Emma. What I can't remember her name. Hold on.
Emma Watson.
Emma Watson, is that a girl's name? They had hinted about her being Black Widow.
Yeah, well, I'm just talking about the character. I don't know who's going to play him. Like, I think that like there's still places to go with it. And actually, that reminds me too. Me and Ruth kept waiting for Loki to come back because he sold the Tesseract.
Yeah, exactly.
So to me, that's pretty much the setup for this TV series.
The thing with Scarlett Johansson too, she had a very very serious thing to try to pull off, and that's like dying. And her and Clint there before for the Soul Stone and all that, like she had to basically like say like, you need to let me go, like it's me, I want to go. But like the acting chops for that needed to be like perfect, or otherwise I would have thought that was stupid, or not stupid, just like it would have felt wrong if she didn't get that performance right.
Well, even Tony, like he didn't really have any last words. It was all in his face.
Yeah.
Like, but when
I am Iron Man.
So when they well, no, I mean after when he was dying, like he didn't say anything. He was
you were
face.
saying like you thought he was brain dead at that point.
That's what I'm saying though. Like when you're talking about acting, like I was like, I think this was brilliant. Is like you don't have lines. You're acting with your face.
Yeah.
And like it was brilliant. But like when Black Widow and Hawkeye got in the time machine and they were the ones that were going to go to Vormir, I was like,
like someone's gonna die.
Yeah, and they don't know that yet.
Right.
We know. And I was like, well, obviously it's gonna be Black Widow, right? Because she doesn't have a family. You know, like Hawkeye has something like fight for. But then when they got there and he made the point of like, I've done a lot of terrible things the last 5 years. Like, oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, you good.
Yeah. and then they kept like going back and forth. And at that point, I genuinely didn't know. Yeah. Like after he brought that up, I was like, I killed a lot of people. Like I probably caught up with you in the last 5 years. You know, like and then like they kept going back and forth. I was like, oh, there's a good like.
she takes a run for it. He shoots the arrow. He tries to jump over. They give a nice slow motion shot of,
but also
Jeremy Renner jumping and then it also literally not like shooting the thing.
Yep.
That whole scene of action and everything and falling to her death basically.
It also happened like the way
amazing.
It also happened the way it needed to for the Soul Stone to like be obtained, because I don't think someone can just commit suicide and then the stone gets there. Like someone has to like give them up. So if it had happened before, I don't know if it would have worked. If like someone just jumped and the other one didn't want them to, like he had to physically like decide to like ungrip his hand.
I think it would just be like you have to lose someone, right? I don't think
he
didn't want to let go. She pushed off the wall.
The other person jumped and you didn't want them to jump. I mean, technically that would work.
The only rule was lose the person you love.
Yeah, exactly.
So if somebody dies there that you loved, it works.
Okay,
because that's the only rules he gave.
That's not what I got. That's not what I got out of it. But I don't know.
Skull, that's the only thing he tells you.
If I hadn't known the Black Widow was going to die, because I've gone to that scene, I was like, oh, of course, my stupid spoiler dude spoiled it for me. Yeah. I would have probably been like, oh, why isn't Cap going to Boromir? Because that'd be sweet to set him up with like beating the crap out of Skull again or something, you know?
Well, so So my question is, if that's the rule, then like, so what if someone got there and accidentally tripped, do they just magically get the soul stone? Like,
If one dies and they love them,
because
maybe.
Red Skull said like this is the rule, and there's some other things too, but I'm not saying like
well,
then I would
it wasn't
believe
some
that
other
there
things.
was like
It wasn't some
more
other things
to it.
The one thing that I got out of it was that someone had to consciously like let them go in their head, even if it's not like physically their hand. Like she said the words like, "You have to let me go," and it wasn't. To me, it was like a double pronged thing. It was like you have to let go of my hand, but also like emotionally, you have to like let this go. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like it was
He never did though. that's the thing.
Well, he did though. To me, like I could see it in
She
his
killed herself.
I could see it in his eyes that he'd like, "Yep."
He didn't let go though.
Yeah,
she
she killed herself,
jumped
though.
out of his hands.
So
He didn't want to let her go. He didn't want to kill her, let her die.
He didn't let her.
okay, I'm just gonna put out there. I disagree with all of that. I'm serious. Like I thought in his acting, in his heart, he knew that was the only way, and he let her go emotionally, even if his hand didn't do it. If he wasn't willing to let go, then I don't think it would have worked.
Yeah.
Like it's like, so why couldn't you just like say you love the bug and then throw it down? Like
It was a
I'm
soul
serious.
Did you
but-
really love the bug?
like why
Do you really love the lamp?
or why don't you
Do
just like,
bugs have souls? That's another argument.
well, yeah, because raccoons do.
Do raccoons have souls?
Well, they do in this universe, and so does a tree.
So it would work. Is it, if you love the bug?
Stan Lee's cameo.
That was silly.
So
That was quick.
I didn't know about the Nuff said thing.
Enough said.
Yeah, I didn't know
Bumper
about that.
sticker.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, like we were with Ruth. She saw Nuff said. She's like, "Oh, this is Stan's cameo." I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." I guess he used to sign off his editorials with that.
I didn't know that, but I remember he said that in Spider-Man 2.
So I guess that maybe that was
Three?
also a thing. I haven't seen it myself. I'm just going by what Ruth said. She said like when he used to like write back to fans like or write like editorial articles in comic books, he would
I
sign
think
them
he
off.
was saying like she was saying sign off prints. Like when
That's what I'm saying in the editorials.
yeah.
Like he would say Nuff said Stanley. And it was out, so supposedly like hardcore fans would like see the bumper sticker and just know that was him in the car.
It was
Like-
real quick though. Like I wonder if it was like CGI partly.
I asked that too, but Rude said that he'd filmed it a while ago, and it was one of those cameos that could have been in any of the Marvel movies. But I don't know.
That's true.
I didn't heard anything either way.
Which would make it weird that they put it in the last one. Not that they would have known that he would have passed away, but that they would have chosen that one for kind of Endgame finale. You know, I feel like they would have like had him have a longer one for just that specific movie. But
Yeah.
I'm just surprised he was in the movie.
Well, they made it a point to say it would be his last cameo or one of his last.
Yeah.
In this one, because they'd filmed like 20 of them in a row or something.
they did. Yeah, I remember they did a lot. But I think Russo said that he wasn't well enough to do the Far From Home one.
Yeah. The thing I don't know if this was intentional or not, but when I thought about later, it would be really fitting because we see Stan like as himself at his peak, like physically. It kind of heavily implies that that's actually Stan Lee playing himself in the car, you know.
Yeah, I think it was probably from back when.
I know Evans' time is up. Like, and he even said like he's done paying Cap, but like there is old Cap that like kind of hangs out and helps out and whatnot. That'd be sweet if they could bring him around eventually. But
doesn't he become a director of S.H.I.E.L.D. at some point or something, the old Cap?
no, I don't know. He like burns up his.
Did you see
his
Coulson's
serum.
back on television or whatever?
They put out some teasers.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't think it started, did it?
No.
Things that I wanted to see. I still wanted to see like Shield and like the Defenders. I was sad we didn't see that. Not even a clip. Could have even had Strange be like, "Whoosh, they're there.
Yeah.
Like he had all those the other monks and stuff. Why not? Why not the Defenders, guys? Come on.
That's something else. I'm gonna have to watch that opening to the final battle again because I feel like there's a ton of stuff in there that we didn't catch.
Yeah.
There's so many people in that.
I paid a little when I saw Black Panther and Shuri and
Okoye. Okoye is my favorite.
seeing her take
She was
down that
back.
one chick, and then seeing Falcon like stab somebody with the
With
wings.
the wings, that was awesome.
Like seeing these characters just like kicking ass was
And
so great.
That brings us to like that big like culmination when you see like Mjolnir like strike lightning and it's not Thor, and then it pans over and it's Cap. Like our theater, like it was like we just won the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Like everyone's cheering, like holy cow! And then Thor gives that smirk. He's like, I knew it.
We talked about what it took to be worthy too, and like I was like, did Cap did he try?
Yeah, in the
He's
original
like, "Oh, yeah,
Avengers."
that's right. He moved
that
it
was
on
the
the
second
table a
one.
little bit,
Was it?
It's an
second one?
Ultron where they're
Oh,
all
that's
trying
right.
to
That's right.
flip the
Yeah.
hammer.
and then she
it
does
moves a little bit,
supposedly
and they're like,
Scarlet's like worthy
freaks
too,
out.
or whatever in the comics, but never.
Well,
showed
everybody
in the
at some
movie.
point in time kind of like left it, like Black Widow left it at one point in time. Worthiness is kind of, I don't know,
In
with
the movies?
humans.
In the comics.
Oh, okay, no. In the movies, Black Widow never tries, so
Yeah.
they leave it open ended, and Cap's the only one that wiggles it a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's cool to like,
And
and then
Vision,
we're like, well, I guess he
obviously.
wasn't exactly worthy yet.
but
then Cap went
Or he
through
could
a
have been
bunch of
like
shit.
lift it and like notice he could lift it and just been like, oh man, ooh,
Yeah.
That could have been a
man,
theory
look at
too.
it.
I think
That's why he knew
took-
that he could get it.
yeah.
I think he went through some shit, and it made him worthy in the end. But that's like that whole like
Well,
tomato
chicken and
tomato
egg,
kind
yeah.
of
Well,
deal.
so the thing I've seen, like a lot of like people who paid attention to it, and this once again may or may not be connected, was that before when he was able to wiggle it, he was still keeping that secret of knowing who killed Tony's parents.
Oh yeah.
And then after that, having let it go, and also like fixing his feud with Tony, that might have been the last thing that kept him from like fully picking it up or whatever. You know, like
Could be.
he had like a long-standing like deceit they needed to like get off his chest.
This whole movie, I yelled and screamed the loudest and like clapped so much more than I've done in any movie before. Like it was just
Yeah.
smile like I'm like from ear to ear, dude, just like the entire time. It was like when Cap picked up the hammer and I was like, oh yes, yeah,
Yeah.
like and he's like, I knew it. And that was
Seeing
so
Antman
great.
punch that flying alien thing, that was
He
fucking
stomped
awesome.
on the one dude.
I know, right?
Oh man, such a
then-
great movie.
Problem I still have, and it's not like a topic worthy thing, and maybe it is, I don't know, but Thanos still exists in these past timelines, and his whole existence is to collect the stones. So like
Well,
Just
they
get
didn't
another
they didn't
Thanos 10
stop
minutes
time
earlier.
from
that's
happening.
that's something we don't know either.
We killed that version of Thanos.
Well, no. So what I'm saying is we don't know either what Tony's intentions are, because they left a little bit of a question at the end if Gamora got dusted, because they showed Quill looking for her
Yeah.
in the thing. So because the only person that could have answered because Hulk had mentioned like I tried to bring Black Widow back but I couldn't.
Yep.
So the only the person making the snap is the only one that can tell you like what
He
he's trying to do.
got
So Tony might have just like had wiped Thanos from like existence across the board, like from
Yeah.
past, future, present, everything. Like
that's a possibility.
just made it like not happen. So he's just not ever a threat. You know, like
I don't know.
That's a possibility.
That's true. What do you guys? How do you guys think they're going to go forward? Because obviously we're still going to have people. Like we're going to have Black Panther movie. We're going to obviously have Spider-Man movie. Nick Fury's in it. Like, what's going to happen next? Do you think for the Avengers? Who do you think the lineup's going to be?
I don't know. Like
Honestly, after Endgame, all my previous things are out the window. Like before, I thought X-Men are going to be shown. Like X-Men need the Avengers.
We're talking about the comics that happened, say, like 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
See, I think you'd need
Like, lightly.
Cap for that too, because I feel like Cap
Well, he
and
was-
Scott had something back and forth. So
Even if they're going to like say they're mutants, or if they're just going to call them something else, you know.
Feige said he's not. They have no plans right now for X-Men stuff. They're talking about Eternals.
We haven't talked about the end. At Tony's funeral, you kind of see the groups of people all like there, and there was this one kid at the end there that everybody's like, "Who the heck's this kid?"
I thought that too.
I looked him up afterwards. It was that kid that everybody thought it was from a
Oh, the
previous
kid
movies
from the
from
Iron Man
that saved
2?
him.
Agreed?
yeah,
Yeah, the little kid that
when he
saved him.
drug the suit into the shed.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was that kid, because I was like, who is that? And then I
Actually, I was
I
like,
looked it up
who's that
after.
kid?
It was pretty unanimous. Everybody was like, they wanted to make sure he was in the button.
There's a specific way that Captain Marvel was standing, like the thing she was like making with her hands as she's standing, like, and she's in the middle of the steps and she's in all black, and her like legs are spread apart. Like the way she stands is always like soldier-esque, you know. She always looks like this
'cause
power.
She's
thing.
always been a soldier, both on Earth and in the Kree world.
And then it like pans over to who was after that? Because it was
Fury.
Oh, that's right. Fury comes across the stairs, and they're like, "Okay, I'm good. Like we can end this now."
Yeah. There was no Maria Hill though either.
No, Maria Hill's there.
Uh-huh.
She was
Was
behind. She was behind the teenager.
I didn't see.
Yeah.
Yeah, they buttoned it.
That's why I need to see this again.
Yeah, they did a nice job like buttoning everybody up.
There was a few other people too that I was.
It was nice that Happy had like the real kind of like ending to the
Yeah.
Tony to the Iron Man arc, because like he was the director of the first Iron Man movie with the
That was
kid.
really
you know?
cool the way they tied that together. Yeah.
That and Happy actually is the one
I'll
that
get you all
marries
the
Pepper at
cheeseburgers
one
you
point in
want.
time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I also like that she wants cheeseburgers.
That's
Yeah, because she's a kid. Like, this is kind of sad, but like true. Like, so like I've been in high school. My tennis coach's young daughter like passed away in a sledding accident. He was about like the age of that girl, and her sister was about the same age, and that's how a little kid acts at a funeral. Like she's like a little sad. Like she's not sad. She's like somber, but she's still like 5. So she's like, I'm sad, but I also want cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
Like, you know. So it was like a very like it wasn't like too campy of like you know, like she's being dramatic. They're trying to find like a little girl that can like deliver a big monologue or something. She's just a 5-year-old or 6-year-old or something like that or whatever.
Yeah, one of our friends, he passed away, and he had left his wife and his child and stepchild, and I think that was like 7 years ago. But I remember she had just kind of like running in a room, like kind of playing, and it was like the day after. You know, she's just kind of, I don't know if she's in shock or if she's just being a kid. You know?
Yeah, because I don't think the concept kind of quite
No.
hits you. Like, because at my tennis coach's daughter's funeral, like her, I forget if it was a younger or older sister. They were only like a year or two apart. It was in the middle of like the eulogy. The little girl just yells to the entire church, like, "I need a pee." So the whole funeral paused. The mom like took her to go pee and came back, and she was like, "Yeah, she understands she has to be like respectful, but she's 5, you know, like where her head's at. Like
She's not going to hold it.
It was a nice like I feel like it was believable in the time that it needed to be believable. Like the funeral needs to be believable. The Pegasus and the raccoon doesn't need to be like like.
I'm glad that it was like on like their little farm or thing that they had there, and not like some ginormous like U.S. government like like shooting off fireworks and crap. Like
it is interesting that they didn't show the body, and that might have just been like a cinematic decision. So the last thing you saw of Tony was like the sacrifice, but because they did the water thing with his first reactor. You mentioned Captain Marvel, and this is like a little thing at the beginning, and I don't know if anybody else heard it, because I saw this all over online, and then I eventually heard it, and then I waited for it in the movie. But I swear on everything that I hear somebody sounds like Brie Larson say, "I have telepathy," in that scene where her and Thor, they do the Stormbreaker thing. He's like, "I like this one." Like as he's getting up from the table, between him sitting up from the table, and walking up to her, there's like a wind noise, and there's a woman's voice mixed in with the wind's noise that says, "I have telepathy."
Interesting.
And I thought it was going to be like brought up later in the movie, and then it just never did. So either that's in there for something else, or someone used a sound sample and didn't know that was like mixed in with that Foley.
Yeah, I didn't notice. Maybe
It's tough. Honestly, the first 2 or 3 times I saw like someone post it, I'm like, I don't hear anything. And then once I heard it, like I can't unhear it. And it's a voice. I don't know if it's intentional, but there's a woman's voice in that wind noise that says, "I have telepathy," or "I need to pee," one of the two. Like,
which brings us back. Oh man,
so that's pretty much the movie in a nutshell.
We were jumping
We
all
didn't
around.
we just like grazed the surface.
I didn't want to go from the
movie.
beginning to the end though, because just run through it, because everyone's seen the movie and gonna see it again probably.
we would have seen it today and tomorrow again if we could have gotten tickets. Like,
People back in like Indiana, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna get tickets for tonight," and I was like, "You're not gonna do that. That's not gonna happen." And my brother's like, "Yeah, it was great." I'm like, "What? How'd you do that?"
yeah, small towns.
It's true. Indiana, dang it.
It goes
LA
one
is
good thing.
packed.
It goes both ways though, because there's some people in the small towns that just because since it was so few theaters, they couldn't get tickets because everybody in town wanted to see it. But
Remember when we went to Greenville? Rod and I went to college together in Greenville, and it was around the time that X-Men 2 came out. I actually called the theater, and I had said, "Are you going to do a midnight showing?" And the midnight showings were relatively new in general, like at least for certain movies. And he's like, "No, why would I want to do that?" And I was like, "If you do a midnight showing, you'll pack it out." And he's like, "I don't think so." I was like, "Believe me." And he's like, "Okay, sure." Sure enough, it was 100% packed out. And I go there, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'll let you in the back, and you can just kind of like," and he brought me in like an extra chair because like there was no tickets left.
yeah,
Like everybody ran out there and bought all the tickets and packed the theater out. So it's kind of crazy.
I loved old movies like that. I mean, not movies, movie theaters like that. Like there was a Movies 10 my brother worked at, and that's back when they had like actual freaking reel-to-reel things you had to load the film in.
They still have some.
But anyway, that's what that
actually,
reminds me of.
There's a few of them here around here. They do the 70
millimeter.
Yep.
Is it 70, 78? 30? I don't know. It's one of those.
They do a few different.
Well, it's a specific number, 78, 75.
I've seen a few different ones
70 something
That's what Christopher Nolan does his stuff on.
on the reels.
A lot of the old films are on,
And all the
millimeters.
IMAX is on reels too, I think.
Yeah,
So
but there's like a
reels.
certain there's a certain just range, like 16:9, whatever the IMAX is.
Saw a very interesting YouTube video where they took an IMAX like projectionist and showing what he was doing with everything. It's on still like physical reels. It's interesting.
weird.
Well, thanks everybody for sticking around.
Yeah.
If you got this far, make sure you check out next week. What are we talking about next week, huh?
I'm going to talk about Mortal Kombat,
Mortal Kombat.
Definitely Mortal Kombat.
which it's very, very similar to Endgame. And if you're a fan of both franchises, that's a lot to take in 2 days. Because Mortal Kombat 11 released on Tuesday and Endgame came out on Thursday, and then I don't know if I could have taken any more.
That's right. Like Rod had said before, hug a nerd if you see one.
It's true. I
They're
think
gonna
next
need
time
it.
we'll be talking about Shang-Chi, which is like a new movie that Marvel's talking about making. He's the master of
Nice.
Kung Fu. The Dark Phoenix stuff, what people think, who people think Wolverine will be. I'm very interested in Swamp Thing. I loved Swamp Thing when I was little, so
Yeah,
Did that production get shut down on that?
not all the way. I think they just halved it, like,
okay.
like episode-wise.
What's this? Dear Disney, it's time to reveal
Oh, yeah.
X-Men, the animated series.
I think this is an article I pulled up.
Oh,
Lots
cool.
of fun stuff.
So that article though is being retweeted by Eric Lewald, who's the showrunner of the show. Keep an eye out on NerdSync because we're going to be doing some stuff with NerdSync and the showrunners and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But we don't want to say like exactly what because we're still working on the terms. But like they've agreed to do the show.
Cool.
So I think there's going to be some merit to like trying to get Disney to revive that show.
That would be so fun.
But we're going to find out.
Also, I'm Vince.
I'm Rod.
I'm Josh.
Thanks for hanging out with us. You can also check out RKVC, YouTube, or go to Spotify or iTunes and music, all that stuff. Josh, you have stuff you would like to promote, sir?
Band's Life.
Do you do video as well for
Yep,
that?
video and audio.
Awesome. So lots of things to check out. I'm sure it'll be in the links.
Always in the link.
Thanks for sticking around. See you guys.